Hello and welcome to Modern Skills in English. Today, we're going to talk about something almost every student feels, but very few talk about: the real reason you can't relax.
I felt this so strongly yesterday. I finally finished a big assignment, and I decided to watch a movie. It was my reward. But the whole time, my mind was just gone. There was this voice in my head, a constant whisper, saying, you should be reading for your next class. You should be preparing for the exam. You're wasting time. I finished the movie feeling more tired and more stressed than when I started. Why can't my brain just switch off?
That feeling is incredibly common, Mark, and most students think the problem is their lack of discipline. They believe they are just lazy or unfocused. But what if the problem isn't that you're bad at relaxing? What if the real problem is that no one ever taught you how to rest?
How to rest? It sounds so simple. You just stop working, right?
That's the belief that causes all the anxiety. We see work and rest as opposites. Work is productive and rest is not work. But that framing creates a huge amount of guilt. It makes rest feel like a failure. The real shift in thinking is to stop seeing rest as the absence of work and start seeing it as a necessary part of the work itself.
A part of the work? I don't understand. How can doing nothing be part of getting things done?
Let's look at it from a different angle. Many students believe their success is directly tied to the number of hours they study. More hours equals better grades. It sounds logical. It's what our teachers and parents often suggest, even with good intentions.
Of course. If you want to achieve more, you have to work more. That just seems like a fact of life.
And because that feels so true, we treat our brain like a machine that should always be on. But a brain isn't a machine. It's more like a muscle. And what happens to a muscle if you use it constantly, without any break?
It gets exhausted. It fails. You can even injure it.
Exactly. So the problem isn't that you stop working. The problem is that your brain doesn't get a chance to recover. Your time off is filled with guilt and anxiety, which is not recovery. It's just a different kind of stress. We need to stop thinking about free time and start thinking about recovery time. Your rest needs a purpose. It needs to be intentional.
Intentional rest. That sounds serious. My idea of rest is just collapsing on the sofa and scrolling through my phone. There's nothing intentional about it.
And how do you feel after an hour of doing that? Do you feel energized, clear, and ready to focus?
Honestly, no. I feel a bit numb. My eyes are tired and my brain feels foggy. And the guilt is still there. Maybe even worse, because I know I just wasted an hour and didn't even enjoy it.
This is the first turning point for so many people. We believe that just because an activity is not work, it must be rest. We think we can just close our study books and immediately be in a state of relaxation. We expect our brain to have a simple on-off switch.
Yeah, a switch for study mode and a switch for relax mode. But my switch seems to be broken. It's stuck on study mode.
It's not broken, it just doesn't exist. Your mind doesn't work like that. Think about it like this. Imagine your study session is like painting a room bright red. You're focused, you're concentrating, the color is everywhere. When you finish, you can't just walk into another room and expect not to have any red paint on you. It's on your clothes, on your hands. You have to consciously clean up before you can do something else properly.
So the stress and the thoughts about studying, that's the leftover red paint.
Precisely. We carry the mental state of studying into our break time. We're physically on the sofa, but mentally we are still in the library. This happens because there is no clear separation. There's no hard stop. To truly rest, you need to create a clear boundary.
A boundary? Like a line between study time and rest time. How do you even do that? It's all just time.
It can be a physical boundary or a time-based one. For example, some people have a specific chair for studying and they never use it for relaxation. When they leave that chair, they are mentally leaving work mode. For others, it's about time. They study from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And at 1 p.m., they close their books, put them in a drawer so they can't see them, and say out loud, "My study time is over for now." It's a small ritual that tells your brain that this period is finished.
Putting my books in a drawer, that feels a little strange, but I can see how it might help. If I can't see the books, I might not think about them as much. It's like creating a mental distance.
Exactly. Without that boundary, your focus leaks. Your attention is divided. You're not fully studying and you're not fully resting. You're trapped in a gray area in between, and that gray area is where guilt and anxiety live. You end up with the stress of work without any of the progress.
Wow, that's it. That's the feeling. The stress of work without the results. It's the worst of both worlds.
And it leads to the next common misunderstanding about rest. We assume the goal of a break is simply to feel pleasure or to be entertained. We choose activities like watching action movies or scrolling through social media because they provide a quick distraction.
Right. If I'm not studying, I want to do something fun. What's wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with fun, but often the things we think are relaxing are actually just as demanding on our brain as studying, but in a different way. Social media feeds are designed to keep your attention constantly switching. A complex movie requires you to follow a story and process information. These things can be enjoyable, but they don't necessarily recharge you. The true purpose of rest is not just to escape work, it's to restore your energy.
Restore my energy. So what kind of activity does that? It sounds like you're going to tell me I need to meditate for an hour.
Meditation can work for some people, but it's not the only way. An activity that restores energy is usually simple. It could be listening to music without doing anything else. It could be a quiet walk without your phone. It could be talking to a friend about something other than your studies. It could even be staring out the window for 10 minutes. The key is that it lowers the cognitive load on your brain.
Staring out a window feels like the definition of wasting time. My brain would scream at me.
At first it might, because you've trained it to believe that every moment must be filled. But think of it like food. When you're truly hungry and need energy, you can eat a bag of candy or you can eat a balanced meal. Scrolling your phone is like the candy. It's a quick hit of stimulation, but it leaves you feeling worse later. A quiet walk is like the healthy meal. It might not be as intensely sweet, but it actually gives you what you need. It helps to restore your ability to focus later.
This all makes sense, Sarah. It really does. But there's something that still feels difficult. Even if I do all this, I decide on my rest, I create a boundary, I go for a walk, my mind still drifts back. I'll be looking at a tree, and suddenly I'm thinking about a math problem I couldn't solve. It's like there's this leftover stress, a mental fog I can't get rid of. Why does that happen? If this is true, why do even good students who try to rest still struggle so much?
That's a brilliant question, Mark, because what you're describing is the core of the challenge. That leftover fog is the mental residue of your focused work. Your brain has been in a state of high alert and deep concentration. It can't just instantly become calm and empty. The thoughts, the little unsolved problems, the worries about the next deadline, that's the residue. The mistake we make is thinking that this residue means we are failing at relaxing. We feel it, we get anxious about it, and so we grab our phone to distract ourselves from the feeling.
Yes, exactly. The mental noise is uncomfortable, so I try to drown it out with other noise.
But the way to clear the residue isn't to add more noise. It's to gently allow it to settle. This is the skill we are really learning here. It is the skill of making a clear distinction between the state of active work and the state of passive recovery. When you go for that walk and the math problem appears in your head, you don't have to fight it. You just notice it. You can say to yourself, there's the residue from my study session. That's okay. It's not time to solve that now. And then you gently bring your attention back to the tree, to the feeling of the air. You might have to do this 10 times in 10 minutes. That isn't failure. That is the practice.
So I'm not lazy for needing a break, and I'm not failing at relaxing if my mind wanders back to work. It's just mental residue, and my job is not to fight it, but just to notice it. The real skill is making that gentle distinction over and over between doing and being.
You've captured it perfectly. It's a quiet, patient process. You need an intentional plan to rest. You need a clear boundary to signal the shift from work to recovery. And the goal of that recovery is to restore your mental energy, not just to find a distraction.
And over time, by creating that clear distinction, the mental residue for my work has a chance to fade on its own, instead of following me all day.
Exactly. It's a practice, not a perfect state you achieve immediately. But every time you do it, you're training your brain. You're teaching it that rest is a safe and productive state. You're giving it permission to truly switch off.
Permission. That's the word. It feels like I've been waiting for someone to give me permission to rest without guilt. But it sounds like I'm the only one who can give it to myself. Because the rest is part of the work. It's what makes the work possible.
And that realization is the first and most important step. Hello to everyone listening. We really hope this conversation has given you a new way to think about rest. If there is another challenge or a specific feeling you experience as a student that you'd like us to explore, please let us know in the comments. We read everyone.